Hello, in this video we're going to be solving inequalities using multiplication or division. Now when we're solving an inequality and we have division or multiplication, we have to be very careful when we multiply or divide by a negative number. And I'm going to teach you what happens when we divide or multiply by a negative number. Let's go ahead and dive into some problems. So let's go ahead and work on number one. We have a division on the first inequality where we're dividing x by 8, and x divided by 8 is greater than -5. Now the question here is, how do I get rid of that 8? And the answer to that question is, well, we use inverse operations. We use the inverse of dividing by 8. And what would be the opposite of dividing by 8? The opposite of dividing by 8 is to multiply times 8. So I'm going to multiply by 8 on both sides in order to isolate x. And that gives me x is greater than -40. So that is my answer for the first problem. Now let's take a look at problem number 2. We have -24 is greater than or equal to 3x. This 3 and this x are multiplying each other. So a number next to a variable, most of the time, I can remember a time when it doesn't imply multiplication, but most of the time I'll say that it implies multiplication. So this is 3 times x. Now, how do we get rid of that 3? We use inverse operation, and the inverse operation of multiplying times 3 is to divide by 3. So I am going to divide by 3 on both sides. So we get -24 divided by 3 is -8. It's greater than or equal to x. Or I can write it as x is less than or equal to -8. Now, what happens? Let me move a little bit. There you go. What happens when we multiply or divide by a negative number? Like we have over here. Number 3, we have 2 is less than y divided by -3. What do we do there? Well, let's see. We're going to use the same inverse operation, but now we're going to multiply by -3. The opposite of dividing by -3 is to multiply by -3. So times -3. And we get -3 times 2 is -6. That is less than or equal to y. But here's the problem. Because I divided or multiply, in this particular case, because I multiply by a negative number, what I have to do is I need to flip the sign. I need to flip the sign. So now the symbol is going to be pointing towards a y instead of the number. Or I can write it like this. Y is less than -6. So either of these problems, these solutions are correct. Both of them are correct. Same thing happens when I divide by a negative number. When I divide by a negative number, I must switch the sign, which is what is going to happen in this problem. I have -7 times y. The opposite of multiplying times -7 is to divide by -7. So I'm going to do that to both sides. This -7 and this -7 get simplified to a +1. -7 divided by -7 is +1. And I have -35 divided by -7 is +5. And well, because I divided by a negative number, I need to flip the sign. So there is my answer for that problem.